Evansville, Indiana is rich in its history. With no shortage of events, whether advantageous or destructive, the city was shaped into what it is today. Unfortunately, Evansville has seen a fair share of fires. Although these fires had all dealt a good deal of damage, the 1951 Main Street fire dealt a ton more in comparison.
Evansville's $6 million fire was a very important point in the city's history. Main Street may not be what it is today if the fire had not happened. The entire city was affected, and it made headlines for weeks, even months after it had demolished Evansville's downtown area. The damage was incredibly significant, destroying businesses, sucking up the city's funds, and postponing many people's lives and careers. The 1951 Main Street fire will forever be a part of Evansville history, due to the assets lost, the damage done, and the lives put on hold.
One frigid January morning, precisely the 4th, a blaze began to form downtown. According to the Evansville Courier article detailing the fire, it was started by high-voltage wires inside a nearby building. The Economy, a local department store, was one of the very first to catch a blaze. The fire quickly spread to the Federal Savings Building and Dr. Cochran's optometry office. The fire was very large and soon spread to many other buildings, which resulted in it becoming a multi-million-dollar fire. Taking place at 1 in the morning, the immense fire pulled many Evansville residents from their beds. Approximately 500 locals gathered around to watch as the fire tore through the downtown area, engulfing buildings in flames as it went. Several buildings and stores were burnt down to the foundation they were built on. On the other hand, some buildings avoided the whole of it, coming out with only slight damage and small blazes.
The buildings that were completely destroyed included Reed's Shoe Store, Bon March, and the Economy Department Store. Other buildings such as the Metropolitan, Holman Building, Kruckemeyer & Kahn, and Walgreens were set ablaze, yet made it out with only moderate damage. Thankfully, the fire had no casualties.
Although this fire ruined many buildings and caused tragedy in the lives of Evansville inhabitants, it also displayed triumph. Evansville, as a city, came back to be something even better than before. The downtown area, even today, has basically zero evidence that a fire has ever vandalized the area. It is still full of successful businesses and cozy homes. Evansville grew from the tragedy inflicted upon it and kept growing to become the third most populated city in Indiana. The fire was impactful in a few ways. Not only did it destroy a fourth of Evansville's 300 block, but it actually inspired the downtown area. The owner of a burnt building, Hoffman's Men and Boys, was motivated to start designing buildings in International style. International style is a modern style of architectural design. Developed in the 1920s, focused on giving buildings a visually weightless aspect. The part of this design that appealed to Hoffman's owner is the fireproof quality, which stems from using materials like glass, steel, and concrete in construction.
After the fire, many buildings began implementing this style into their planning and construction. A few examples include Strauss's department store, which happened to close in 2009, the Hub, which was renovated to match this style, and the Evansville store, which closed in 1977. Most of Evansville's examples of international style are located in the historic district downtown. Some buildings that were affected in the fire can still be seen downtown today. The aforementioned Holman Building, although burnt in the fire, remains standing even today. The Holman Building is a 10-story Art Deco style building named after the family who owns it. It has graced Evansville's skyline since its completion in 1930 when it housed the Central Union Bank. It failed as a bank in the height of the Great Depression. At the time of the Main Street fire, it had become Veterans Headquarters, what it remained as until 2005. Currently, it is home to the Evansville Commerce Bank.
The Holman Building can be looked at as a symbol of Evansville's strength and stability through hard times. The fact that it stood strong through all of the damage says a lot about Evansville's resilience as a community. Today it stands triumphantly against Evansville's skyline as one of the first Art Deco buildings constructed in the city and one of the tallest that can be seen in the area.
The Citizens National Bank is another example of a building which stood tall through the fire and remains on Main Street today. It is since known as the Hilliard Lyons Building and is called home by many civilians as it now holds apartments. Standing elegantly on the corner of 4th Street and Main, it was constructed in 1916. Looking at its place on the street and where the fire took place, that information puts the building right in the middle of the natural disaster.
On the other hand, despite the few buildings that still stand today, Evansville's Arcade building was burnt to the ground in the fire. The building, also known for housing the Economy Department Store, was built in circa 1895. Being the building which actually started the fire, it could not be salvaged after the disastrous events. Today, in the place of the building, stands an arcade. The Arcade High Score Saloon was established in 2017. It is a recent addition to the downtown area and an interesting difference compared to what stood there before. Remaining on the topic of renovation and rebuilding, the fire and its destruction led Evansville to construct the Evansville Store. Opened to shoppers on November 6, 1952, the 6-story establishment was built on the same part of the block that the fire had ravaged 1 year before. It was located at 318 Main Street. It was the most innovative and useful building that Evansville had seen in some time, with each floor full of merchandise.
The store held clothing, furniture, appliances, toys, a beauty parlor, and a restaurant. The shopping center even included an escalator, the only one in Evansville at the time. The store closed in 1977, but the building remained. It is now Innovation Point, a place for budding entrepreneurs to rent out offices. Innovation Point is also a good symbol of the growth that has taken place downtown. The fire, although a tragedy, made room for something better to be built up in its place.
Innovation Point is a good representation of the communication and sharing that takes place downtown. The renting of office spaces encourages citizens to join together in their work and gives opportunities to those who are in need of fresh surroundings. Innovation Point is exactly what its name implies, and like said before, it amounts to exactly what River City has came to be all about. All the growth that has taken place downtown came from new opportunities and possibilities. Change is natural and has to happen over the course of all lives and all aspects of life. For that reason, the tragic Main Street fire was not so tragic after all. It made room for Evansville to grow as a city and a community. Evansville was able to overcome the disaster and come out triumphant.